Welcome, everybody, to Who's Your Band? I am Jeffrey Paul. I am joined by Sean Morton. How are you, Sean?
How are you, buddy? I'm feeling fantastic.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I wish the Bills would have won today, but
Yeah, but look, we had good shows this weekend. You did well on your shows. I did well on my shows. That's all that matters.
It's fun. And I'm sorry I missed last week's show. I heard that was really good. People are talking about it.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying it's a top 5 episode so far.
Yeah, Chauncey hated, man. I wish I was there for that. But this week, okay, this week we're gonna do something that I love doing, because I think of all the topics that we do, people love the top fives, and our show we just have had a knack of getting some really great drummers on this show. I mean, we had Liberty DeVito, we had Jason Bittner, we had Frankie Bello, right?
Oh, Frankie Bello's a bass player, you jackass.
If he played, he's a rhythm guy, though. Okay.
Oh, yeah, just totally different. No, we also had Johnny Kelly from
Johnny Kelly. That was a current drummer in Quiet Riot.
Yep.
Yeah. So we really did have like a lot of
Chris McCoy. Chris McCoy was on the show too.
Chris McCoy is a keyboard player. Is stupid.
Oh, not the only one.
Bing, bing, bing. All right, go to respective corners and come out fighting clean, boy. All right, Sean is in one corner. We got Jeffrey in the other. Come on now.
You really got to stop doing that. Anyway, because we didn't introduce you yet. All right. but this week we are gonna talk drummers. And I couldn't think of a better guy to bring in, because he's a comedian. He's a professional drummer himself. Let's introduce to the show, Frankie Hudak.
Yes.
How are you, Frank?
Welcome. I know, now you hear me. I can speak. I know, I just had to chime in because you guys were so cute together arguing like that. It was
get used to it. We have 57 more minutes to go.
Oh, really? Okay, well, this is going to be good then. All right.
This is the show. So this is what we thought we'd do today. I mean, I think this was a long time coming.
Jeffrey.
Yes, it's a long time coming. I thought what we do is we'll all throw out a drummer, okay? And we'll try and come up with our top 5 drummers. And this was more challenging than I thought it was going to be. I thought, I think for me, the top 3 came very easy. And then afterwards, it was almost impossible, to eliminate certain guys and say that I couldn't put them in my top 5. So let's get it going. And we'll start with, but no, before we actually do that, Frankie, just give us a little bit about your background as a drummer.
As a drummer, okay, well, I started as a drummer to become the rock star, to play in Madison Square Garden. I played in a heavy metal band everywhere. My father's place, all these rock clubs back in the 80s, and nobody was making money, nobody. And if somebody told me how much they made in weddings, and I was like, all right, see you guys later. And there goes the rock dream, the little waltzes. So I stayed in rock and doing weddings for a very long time, and then comedy afterwards.
Right. I played in high school. That's how I paid for my prom. I played in a Clash and Jam cover band called The Click, but not Click with a K at the end. Click as in a clique of friends. Do you get it?
We know what happens, Frankie. There comes a time where I think I can't hate Jeff more. And then he'll throw out a little fact about his band name being called The Click. I guarantee you they had headshots with him wearing a fucking beret. I guarantee it. Guarantee it.
No, I wore. This is more obnoxious than a beret. I would wear like a bandana, but I tied around my leg like Charles in Charge.
Oh my God. Like fuck, like the Springsteen Born in the USA cover. Doesn't he have that on the back of it?
I think he has the beret. The beret. I think he has the bandana in his back pocket.
Do you have spandex? Did you have spandex?
No, I didn't. I wasn't. Well, come on. That was like more hair metal, because we're The Click. We were outsiders, man. We were outsiders. We weren't playing
chrome jeans and ripped out t-shirts.
We were filled with angst.
Oh God, I think I'm having an eye stroke. Is that possible?
Yes, it is.
Oh God.
Well, rub it, man. Rub it.
Oh my God.
Push in and take the palm of your hand, take your eyeball, and push that shit right until it comes out the back of your head, and then pops out. It'll be fine.
Sometimes, Sean, I would wear I'd wear a bandana around my head, and I had long hair.
Well, I would do the bandana too, because I would sweat on stage. But yeah,
I just did it to be cool.
Yeah, oh God. If I can go, like, all right, so let me ask you a question. If you can go back in a time machine, like say you're in Back to the Future and you're Doc Brown, you can go into a DeLorean. Like what period would you go back? Do you have a specific day? Like some people would say, yeah, I would make sure Hitler was never born, or I would make sure 9/11 never happened. Like what would be your day that you would go back in a time machine?
When I got the chick after the gig and it was the wrong parking lot when they knocked on the door. Knocked on the window. I should have chose another parking lot. She was great.
What about you, Jeff?
Oh man,
and it's so funny. I was just on a podcast this week, and somebody asked me a question similar to that. I would say the last time I would say I was truly really happy was I got called to film more days of The Irishman, and I had just done. Frank, I don't know if you know I was in that.
No, I remember.
You did? Okay, I wasn't sure.
You told me about it and how what's his name was yelling at you. It was great.
Al Pacino. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I wasn't sure if you knew that I had done that. The problem is I don't bring it up on the show. That's
right.
I kind of try and keep it like I don't want a lot of people to know, Frank. I downplay.
Sean,
no, but I would say like that to me. That was like I get that call. I do Greenwich Village. I was doing a set at the Grizzly Pear. And I remember just sitting on this stool and drinking a scotch, and I'm thinking, man, I am at this point really happy. I was just really happy with my life.
So that's the day you would go back to?
Yeah, that maybe, and also the day my son was born.
I would probably go back.
You have to throw that in.
Oh, it's an important day in your life. I would probably go back. I would have to track down the actual day. Like that's the most important thing. I would have to find out the exact day. But I'm just going to guess that it's in the late 50s, maybe very early 60s when your parents met. And I would make sure that they never met.
Oh, geez.
That way I wouldn't be here?
Correct.
Yeah.
No.
All
I'd find a way. And then I'd find my way to you,
Sean. Let's go there right now. Let's go. Let's say, where were they? Come on, Sean. What were they doing? What's the story that they told you, Sean?
I don't know. I don't know I've never.
You know what I think we should do?
Frankie scares me a little bit. I want you to understand that.
I just got to. Okay. What?
I think we should get this list started.
With the list started?
All right. So let's do it. I'm excited about this. So let's start with our guests first. So we'll go around and we'll build 5. Okay.
Now we're doing our favorites or who we think the best are. Is that what we're doing?
I think our favorites, right? Because this is extremely subjective.
Okay. Yeah. Okay? And then I'll chime in with some of the other picks that I have. Then. Okay. Perfect.
Because I have a feeling that there's going to be 2, possibly 3 that we're all going to kind of agree on.
Yeah.
But we'll throw them out as well. But then there are other guys we're going to want to fill in. And okay. And if we have some time, we could do some honorable mentions. So Frankie, throw out the first name. I'm going to keep track of the names.
All right. I put Cozy Powell.
Yeah, I saw him on some of those lists, and he has a great history. But go ahead.
He was a drummer in Rainbow.
Yeah.
He was a power drummer. And that sounded Ian Pace too, but it's just like I'm a power drummer kind of guy.
Okay.
All right. And John Bonham.
But no, we're going one at a time. But Frankie Hudak.
Hey, you know what? Listen, we can do his top 5.
Okay, no, let's do. Well, okay, since Frankie ruined it. Okay.
Ruined it. My fangula ruined it. Nothing.
You ruined it. Go 5 in a row.
5. You didn't say, Frankie, we're going to do one, and then I'm going to go to Jeffrey and do one, and then I'm going to go to Sean and do another. You didn't tell me that. And when you told me this.
There's a reason why I haven't contacted this guy in a couple of years. Okay, Frankie.
Yes, sir.
Good. Go. You got 4 more.
All right. Well, it was John Bonham.
Well, you have to pick Bonham. Absolutely.
Yeah, right. Well, right. I don't know if you guys are you a metal drummer guys or what's
mostly metal and rock, I would say.
Okay, all right. So Tommy Aldridge was another favorite drummer of mine.
Yeah, great drummer.
And recently, I went to see Sabbath.
Recently?
Yeah, not too long ago, and their new drummer fucking blew me away, man. Tommy Clufetos, you know who that is?
Yes.
Yeah. Didn't he just play with Motley Crue?
Oh.
I'm positive he played with Motley Crue. He's been filling in for Tommy Lee. So is that your 4th one?
Yeah. Yeah,
What's his name?
no, not really the fourth one.
Okay.
No, it was
You're
just
just making an honorable mention.
yes, honorable mention.
Okay. So right now we got Cozy Powell, John Bonham, and Tommy Aldridge.
Right. Keith Moon, of course, was a crazy drummer.
You gotta put Keith Moon in there.
And Neil Peart. That's it.
All right.
That's a good list.
Ginger Baker was in there too. I'm going to be like, Sean, I got 18 of them.
Okay, right now,
I know what you mean, Sean.
Right now, we got your top 5. Let's go to Sean top 5, and then we'll go my top 5, and then we'll start to narrow down the list.
This is how I kind of picked my list. I went with I scanned my record collection because I have 1,000 records, right? So I'm looking through my record collection, going in alphabetical order. I started throwing names out there, and then I said to myself, let me pick my 5 that are my favorites in a certain way, because how I realized they're my favorite drummers is a lot of people know the definitive sound of a guitar player, like Slash's sound, Eddie Van Halen's sound, and a lot of times the drummers are just they're in the back and you don't hear them. But there's a lot of drummers that I think have a very specific sound and makes the band that they're in. So that's kind of the list that I was going for. So I'll go number 5 with Joey Jordison from Slipknot, who, when you hear him play, well, not anymore, he's gone now, but he had probably one of the fastest double basses I've ever heard in my entire life. And he's a brilliant, brilliant writer too. He wrote a lot of the songs. He's also in Murder Dolls, a couple of the bands like that. So I'm going to go with him at number 5. Number 4, I know Jeff's going to have him on the list too. I think he's a grossly underrated drummer is Nico McBrain from Iron Maiden.
He might have been on my list, Sean.
And that's fine if you put him on the list, but I think he's a very, very underrated drummer. And Iron Maiden is a band, I know that you're a favorite band, Jeff, and I will on record and say this, like, even though they're a monstrous, monstrous band, right? I think they're one of the top 5 most underrated bands. I don't think they get the recognition that they ever deserve.
Great.
I just amazing. So I'm going to go with that was number 4. Number 3, I'm going to go with a band that me and Jeff are going to see in August, although that drummer will not be there. We're going to see Pantera, and I'm going with Vinnie Paul at number 3.
A good one.
Vinnie had a very, very, very deep, heavy hitting sound. And I was that again, one of the first songs I had heard from Pantera was Walk, and it's just a basic fill beat and stuff like that. But then I started hearing other songs like Fucking Hostile and all these really, really fast intro songs. Dude is a monster. He's an absolute monster. I wish that they obviously would be playing with Pantera in August, but we're not going to be that lucky unless there's 2 more bullets. But that's my number 3. Number 2 is I might change this. I might change my number 2. Actually, I'm not. I'm not going to change my number 2. I'm going to go with Taylor Hawkins from the Foo Fighters. Now, people always say, "Oh my God, Dave Grohl is one of the most brilliant drummers of all time." He's a great drummer, but if you really look at it, he's only really drummed on 4 records that were really big. I mean, he's done some other stuff too, but like he only did the first Foo Fighters record that was all him, and then the rest of it was Taylor Hawkins. I mean, he's played drums with like Queens of the Stone Age, that stuff like that, but known more as the drummer for Nirvana. Only did 3 records with Nirvana. And I'm sorry, I tailed off. I tailed off a little bit. I'm sorry. So yeah, I was going to say that Dave Grohl was the better drummer in the Foo Fighters, but you really can't. I think Taylor Hawkins' style changed the sound of that band completely, because the first album, again, is just
Grohl looked up to him as a drummer. He didn't even think that he would even join the band.
Right. And he played for Alanis Morissette before he joined.
Right.
But he wanted to be in a rock band. So what better person to be in a rock band with is the guy from Nirvana, But my favorite drummer of all time, and I don't think anybody's going to know, you guys are definitely not going to know who this is. Actually, Frankie might, if he's more of a metal guy too. Reason I picked this guy is his sound defined 2 of my favorite bands. I'm going with Sal Abrascato from Life of Agony / Typo Negative. So he started off in Typo Negative, and it's a very deep, brooding, just heavy, dark, demonic kind of playing sound. And then he goes from that going into Life of Agony as just kind of like a fill-in player, because they had like drummer issues. He recorded their record, and his drumming is such an integral part of that amazing first record. And for me, it's all about the sound of a drummer. I think it's, like I said, when you play guitar, you have special tones, you have guitar pedals, you have effects, all that kind of stuff, your amps, your guitars, everything that makes that combo makes your sound. With the drummers, the same thing, and people don't give it a lot of recognition. So Sal, for me, stands out, even though he's a kind of a shitty person. But
why is he a shitty person?
So like, my favorite band is Life of Agony, and I've told you about this, and their singer went from being a man to being a trans woman, and he basically quit the band because he was like, yeah, my singer became a fucking chick. And it just didn't sit well. I guess he's more of an old school kind of guy.
The band.
Yeah, but now they're better than ever, so it's his loss. All right, Jeffrey.
Okay, so
Jeffrey, let's hear you, Jeff.
Well, you guys, between the two of you poached a good part of my list. So I'm going to have to go with some alternatives here, but I'm happy with them because you didn't take one of my top three, and then we can re-rank. Okay. So I'm going to go with number 5 being Lars Ulrich from Metallica.
I didn't even have him on my 18. How horrible is that?
That's pretty horrible because he's a great drummer. He uses like 2 bass drums, great technique. You were talking about drummers that have recognizable style. He's definitely a guy who has recognizable style. He's a fast player, plays these complex drum patterns. And if you really want an example of that, check out a song like Battery. Okay. I think that really exemplifies, who Lars Ulrich was. Another guy I have on my list, number 4. This guy influenced John Bonham, and that's going to be Carmine Appice.
I have that one too.
I figured you did. You know him maybe because he started his career with Vanilla Fudge, 60s band.
I was going to start off with that one actually, Jeffrey, because he's the one that I first
got you into drumming, right?
Got me into drumming. Yeah, and then I went to meet him at a Sam Ash drum seminar. It was the greatest fucking thing in the world.
What was he like?
He was unbelievable. And now I know him personally. I met him, I know him personally. So that I brought the magazine that I bought at Sam Ash that day, and I said, do me a favor. So he goes, oh my God, Drum World magazine. I never had. That's an old one. That's from Japan. And he signed it. It was cool.
We know him from Vanilla Fudge, but he also made a lot of money and played a lot of years with Rod Stewart. I think he wrote Do You Think I'm Sexy?
Beck Bogert, that was the band. My brother turned me on to Jeff Beck, Tim Bogert, and
that's right. He played with, but he later on he also plays, and his brother as well. They both wind up playing with Sabbath and Dio.
Right.
Both of them did. I don't know. And he also played. I didn't know this. He played on Pink Floyd's "Momentary Lapse of Reason," which is a pretty good album.
It's a great album.
Okay, so. I kind of like, just we talk about early influences. For me, I remember, playing, just his use of a hi-hat. So I'm going to put Carmine Appice in my number 4.
I like Carmine. Can I say?
Yeah, no, of course.
When he first did when he did a drum set, and then he choked the thing, and he grabbed the fucking thing like he was like tackling somebody, and he got up and his hair went all over. When he did that choke on the cymbal, that I was like, this guy's cool. And then like an animal on those.
He had the big Fu Manchu mustache,
and you know what?
Big fro.
When I saw him, when it just came out for all the drummers, they were like, and this is the new Simmons drum you remember the Simmons that just made one sound? So like he's doing a drum solo at this seminar and he's going, and that was supposed to sell the Simmons because it was like sponsored by Simmons at Sam Ash Music Store.
I remember his brother was really just as good.
Oh, I love his brother.
Vinny Appice was really good too.
This is the thing is because Carmine was the first and then when Vinny Appice came around, you have that in your head. It's like, oh, the little brother, you can't. And then you hear him and you're like, oh my God, This guy's. It's like a toss up, you know. It's like crazy. They got their own individuality, but they're both powerful.
They are. And so, speaking of Vinny Appice, he replaced my number 3 guy in Sabbath, which is Bill Ward. Okay. Sabbath, I mean, the guy is self-taught. And if you look at his influences, he was influenced by Jim Capaldi. He was influenced by Gene Krupa as well. He had an innovative use of like floor toms. And if you listen to like, I love Sabbath and a song like Fairies Wear Boots, right? He has like, if you listen to his drumming, it's almost like a jazz type of sound, you know, in that song.
Big time.
Really very underrated drumming. You know, he also played with power. Frankie, you probably know this better than Sean and I, but as drummers get older, it's probably harder to stay on and be as an effective drummer. And that became the problem with Bill Ward. His hands, he aged. You get aches and pains in your knees and your elbows and your wrists.
It's a lot of endurance too, man. If you
exactly,
it depends what kind of the genre is. If it's constantly fast, you got to be like,
well, did you hear what happened over the weekend with Stephen? What's his name? What's his name? Steve Adler.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So he's playing a show, and I heard his set was great. And 2 songs into the set, he steps off the drum riser and goes over to the singer and asks the singer to play Patience. They move Patience up in the set, and because that song has no drums, right? He needed to just like take a hit off of his inhaler because I don't know if he had COVID at some time, but he just had a hard time breathing. You talk about stamina and pace. Because he had been sick a little bit, and then was able to like regroup himself and then continue on with the show. But from what I understood, it sounded like he was gonna that was gonna be it. 2 songs in, he's done.
Yeah, like you're saying about Bill Ward, it takes a lot. It takes a lot, especially if you have power hitting and you got speed going on, and you got to keep the
and especially the songs that Sabbath do.
Yeah, I always used to say, man, the guitar players got it easy when the gig is over. They just pull the plug out and they wrap their guitar and they're hanging out with the girls at the bar. The drummer's still taking the cymbals off and breaking down everything.
Now, Sean, you scared me when you were going to list your number 1 because I thought you were going to poach one of my guys here.
Really?
Yeah. And the guy is Danny Carey. He's the drummer for Tool.
He's on my list, Jeffrey.
Yeah, he is a combination of Bonham and Bill Bruford, who's a progressive drummer, and he started as a jazz drummer. But if you listen to songs like Schism, and it's such a fucking great song. But just like the timing and the off beats on these songs, I mean, they are almost an impossible band to replicate.
You can't replicate them. And that's one of the reasons why I always had this. I love Tool. I absolutely love them, but I also hate them as much as I love them.
Why? Why the hate?
So fucking ridiculously talented. They're so different and so talented. And like you said, as a musician, you would look at some of the time structures that they're playing in. They're all over the place. Their tunings are all over the place, but you can't beat them. Go to a show. I saw them I think 3 or 4 years ago, the last tour they were on. I saw them at the Prudential Center. The great thing about that show, no one stood up. Everybody was sat down and was focused, laser focused, watching the band playing. Because at 20,000 people, you had to have 14,000 musicians at that show.
Would you say they're kind of like a band like the way Dream Theater, could be like a band, you look at them as technical, great musicians?
Yeah. I'm just going to just jump in. I have Mike Portnoy on this list of all the other drummers that he's a ridiculous drummer. Dream Theater was one of those bands too. Again, you would go and see them perform, and say if it held 1,000 people, there's only going to be 950 dudes there. And chicks, but out of those 950 dudes, you got to have about 800 musicians at that show, just focused on there. I turned my head one time and I was like, wow, that's a wicked solo. And I see Petrucci's not even on the stage, and Jordan Rudess is playing the freaking keyboards and sounds like a goddamn guitar player. And I'm like, this band is just out of this fucking world. And now Portnoy is playing in one of my favorite new bands of the last 10 years, the Winery Dogs.
Winery Dogs, they have a new album coming out in February next month.
I'm going to see them next month.
Yeah, what's the song? I think is it? Oh, was it something
The new
like?
album?
Yeah, is it called Xanadu? That is a really good song.
Where are they going to
Really
be,
good
Sean?
song.
What's that?
Where are they going to be?
Starland Ballroom in Sayreville.
You got tickets?
What's
You
the
going?
date?
I have tickets February 23rd.
Good man. Yeah, I figured you can always count on Sean to catch these shows.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then my number one, and then we could try and pare down our lists.
Yeah.
Yours again, Jeffrey, was Lars Carmine.
Lars Carmine, Bill Ward.
Yep.
And Danny Carey from Tool.
Okay.
And so my number one on my list right here for now is Stuart Copeland from The Police.
Oh,
I had him on this list too.
Even as a kid, man, like, I just remember how ridiculous he was. You know, think about all the genres that are kind of mixed between reggae, jazz, rock. His drumming is as important to the Police sound as Sting is to the Police. He would do like this drag with the hi-hat. You were talking about guys who go over the top, you know, absolutely going over the top. He would do this drag. That's, you know what I mean?
Huh.
Two songs that really stood out that I wrote was Every Breath You Take and Driven to Tears. Okay. Where it's really the standout sound. He would play
what songs again?
any song. He would do anything that was not typical of either a 2/4 beat or a 4/4 beat. Yeah, everything had to be off.
Oh yeah,
he's an amazing. Like, if you ever see some of these shows, I forgot what it was, a documentary he was just on, and I think it was about the LA sound or something like that. And he just started playing these fills, right? And I'm not a drum solo guy. Like, I'm not a guitar solo guy either. I think they're kind of obnoxious, right? But I can watch him play by himself for hours.
Yeah,
he's so fucking fluid. I love it.
He's pretty entertaining. All right, so now let's start thinking about putting a list together. I think everyone has to go with John Bonham, right? He's ridiculously powerful, fast. Can you think of any other drummer really playing When the Levee Breaks or The Rover?
No, because there was nobody around like him at that point. And I think one of the things I would say personally, if you're going to pick the best drummer of all time, I'm going to say it's John Bonham. I think he just influenced so many people on so many different levels between metal and rock, even going into country. I mean, by far, no one could touch him.
You know what? It's so funny that you mentioned that. Yeah, I was just thinking he's powerful, but also when you talk about like off time, what's the song? It's off of Zeppelin's. It's off of the last album, the last album that they recorded, the one within the evening. Yeah. No, Coda was a mixture of stuff. In Through the Outdoor.
Okay.
And what's that song? Fool in the Rain.
That's a good song.
Okay. I mean, but think about like how off the beats are on that song. And then when you kind of like juxtapose it with the opening track was In the Evening, and just how hard he's playing that. Like you could feel him going through the skins on that. I mean, Bonham was incredible.
He's got that big drum set, so you got to whack that thing, man. You know.
Oh yeah.
He's got a big 26-inch kick drum, big Tom's monster. You got to pound that to get that sound like the caveman, like he was. You know.
But he could have played on a 5-piece set and still sounded incredible.
I know, but we were talking about the sound too. Remember, like each drum has its own sound, so he chose to have that big cannon sound, the timpani sound that he liked big.
And he's also kind of like I guess you have to say he's kind of like the father of the drum solo in Moby Dick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, John Bonham's an easy one. I think another guy you have to put up there, even though you hate him, Sean, you hate the band, Neil Peart.
Oh, okay. 100%. I had him on the list. I mean, anytime you guys mentioned a drummer, I took him off this extras list that I have. But yeah, Neil Peart is ridiculous, and
yeah.
I don't hate Rush. Okay, let me just get this. I say it a lot, but I'm just not into them. I just don't get it. If you gave me their greatest hits, I might play it, but like I don't go deep into it. I know so many people, worship this band. They're stupid good. Neil Peart was a ridiculous drummer. I can never say that, but just not my thing.
I mean, Frankie was talking about Bonham having a big kit. Did you ever see what Neil Peart's drum kit looked like? It looked like a freaking spaceship.
Can I share a picture or no?
Yeah.
Is this host disabled? This one screen share. Okay. All right. So
Okay. Hey, why are you doing that? Yeah, I mean, he was mind-blowingly technical. Again, huge kit. He had like a mixture of like acoustic drums and electric drums. And if you just like listen to songs like Xanadu, Tom Sawyer, the fills on Tom Sawyer, everything on 2112, which is, in my top 10 albums of all time. Just insane. I think you can make an argument for either Bonham or Pert being, number ones. You find what you're looking for, Frank?
Yeah, I still would go with Bonham
over Bonham.
Pert.
Okay. Now it gets a little trickier, and now hey, what happened to Frank? Oh, there he is. Wow,
that's a shot right there. That's a kit, right?
Yeah, it's obnoxious.
but you could see like the electronic drums. You can see the acoustic. It looks like he has like 1, 2, 3 separate kits right there, almost four with the electric drums, right?
You know what's scary is that he does not put his kit together, right? So this is a guy who is a multimillionaire and he's in one of the biggest bands of all time, and he has 3 roadies that are just putting that kit together. But the fucked up thing is sometimes drummers get a little obnoxious and make those big kits. So it really sucks when you're going to a local Jersey show and you want to see a friend's band and they bring out like a 19-piece kit and takes 5 minutes just to set them up.
That's crazy. You can't do that all the time. Maybe if it's a special show, special.
Right.
Frankie, go back to the Bonham shot.
Bottom shot. All right.
Look at him, man. I mean, the guy died when he was 32 years old. Can you imagine what he would have accomplished?
Oh my God.
Yeah. And considering that he looks like he's about 55 in that picture.
Here's another. I'll share this one. Check this out. This one. There we go.
Yeah. Hardcore drinker.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's when I told you before about Carmine and there was one more that I didn't mention was Ginger Baker, which I was younger. My brother turned me on to some of the solos. He was a whack job, man. He was a whack job on the drums, man. You ever heard of solos?
Ginger Baker, sure. Cream.
Oh my God.
I mean, phenomenal drummer. There he is.
Yep.
And look at him. Cigarette. He had muscles,
his cigarette going crazy,
Great drama.
You notice my camera. I have a new camera. It's a Logitech camera, and there's somehow with the new Mac, it gets a digital like Mac's headroom, so if you see that, don't worry about it. It's a new Mac not working correctly with old gear.
There was another guy who you had mentioned, Frankie, but I didn't put him on the list either. Was Ian Pace from Deep Purple? The one thing about him, he played on every Deep Purple album. He's self-taught, and if you listen to a song like Perfect Strangers, how can you almost feel like you want to play along with that? It's so cool. And another guy who's influenced by Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich. All right. So I think we can easily agree on Bonham and Pert. So now let's add 3, drummer number 3. And would you say Keith Moon?
Yeah, I was gonna jump in before you said that. I think Keith Moon is a definite solid number 3.
I agree with you, Sean. I mean, look at it. That is quintessential Keith Moon. That is his personality, and that's the way he played. Right?
He was 19 years old in that picture.
Oh my God!
No, he wasn't. I could almost believe it because he was such a madman. But can you imagine any other drummer playing the fill in "We Won't Get Fooled Again" or Baba O'Reilly?
No, not at all.
I mean, really,
we have some major names that we did not even pick, and I
throw a couple of them out there.
So, Sean said
not even on my list. It just popped into my head. Alex Van Halen.
Yeah.
How did that not come on? How did that not get?
I considered him, but I mean, I couldn't go crazy like you and go 18. I put 10 and said I could maybe pick half of these guys, on it, and use it as some of them as a backup or an honorable mention. But yeah, Alex Van Halen, signature sound, extremely underrated drummer. Especially later in his career, he had a very different sound than he did at the beginning with what's his name, with Hagar.
Absolutely, two different bands, two totally different bands.
But even his drumming sound was different. It almost sounded like a knock the way he was playing.
Yeah.
You had mentioned Nico McBrain.
Yeah.
And I almost want to make an argument for him as number 4. One thing about him is he's not the original drummer in Iron Maiden. A lot of people don't realize that. Okay, he is the second drummer. He spent over 4 decades with Maiden and makes up probably one of the best rhythm sections in rock history with Steve Harris. But the thing about Maiden, and maybe because it just appeals to me, they had that like signature gallop sound, right? Like whether it be Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner or Flight of Icarus. I'll do
it right for you right now.
There you go. Yeah. And he played. And the thing is, he played a barefoot single bass. If you ever look at, he plays barefoot. If you ever see him, and the thing is, you go on YouTube, there are tons of videos of him and the point of view shot of behind, so you can really see him play.
Crazy,
really, it's great. He was a lot more than just keeping nice time. He was a guy, who really like helped make Maiden sound like what they actually became.
It's a great way of saying. When you take a certain member out of a band and you can replace them and they still sound the same, it's a little weird for me. Like if you took out Nico McBrain right now and put a different drummer in, I would never listen to Iron Maiden ever again, because that's like kind of the sum of all parts. You know what I mean? Like you take that one part out, that whole band's dynamic is completely different.
I think it's true with a bunch of things with Maiden. I think with Maiden, Nico McBrain's drumming, but you can't get what's Maiden without Steve Harris on bass.
Right, exactly.
Dave Murray, insane guitar player. Those leader and Adrian Smith, just complement. They complement each other the way. I know you hate this band, but the way Don Felder and the way what's his name, Joel Walsh.
I don't hate the Eagles. I love the Eagles.
Oh, I thought you hated the Eagles.
Oh, I love the Eagles. They're a great band.
Great band. I'm just talking about bands also with two guys who were just insanely great guitarists. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of them. I think you see that in Maiden, and I love Dickinson. I could talk Maiden all day, but so let's consider Nico McBrain as a possible guy on this list.
I don't have a problem with that. I don't want to lock it in yet.
Okay. I'm just going to put a little star next to him. And then let me bring up Stuart Copeland again. What do you guys think about him?
I think Stuart definitely over Nico.
What do you think, Frankie Hudak?
It's different. I'm a heavier guy. I love Stuart Copeland. I love his synchronicity with a lot of different things that is syncopation. I mean, he's great, but it's like Nico is, I'm just a metal guy like that. I'm sorry.
Listen, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with it. So it's going to be 2 against 1, but I'll flip a coin. You want to put Nico in? Go for it.
I'm going to put a little star next to him too. I want to get someone who we all could kind of like agree upon. So let me throw this guy out to you too, Danny Carey.
I'll put Dan. I'll co-sign for Danny Carey.
What about you, Frankie? Were you a Tool fan?
Not really.
Okay, I'm going to put a little star next to him too.
How about one that wasn't on the list that I think should have been on the list, who was grossly underrated? And Charlie Watts from the Rolling Stones.
Great drummer, man. He is also extremely underrated. We did a show here where we talked about when he passed. We did a tribute show to him.
Yep.
And you don't realize what he really brought to the Stones. And just the way he would play, and with his just like the off like that millisecond offbeat with the bass drum. He had a distinct way of playing. What do you think about Charlie Watts?
To me, not I love them keeping great timing and everything, but to me it was just like it's simplicity for the music and for what he did, but it's like it's somebody that I want to achieve to be like a drummer. It wouldn't be Charlie Watts. It would be such a good drum machine.
Okay, how about Carmine Appice?
Oh, you're talking
Can we all go with Carmine Appice?
I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
All right, so I'm going to take him off the list.
You can take that off.
All right.
What about Ringo Starr? No one mentioned Ringo Starr either.
You know what? I read a bunch of lists, and I was amazed at how high Ringo Starr was on these lists. He was in the top 20 of every list I read. You know,
and
the knock on him is, you know, it's kind of like it's kind of like when like someone would hack would say, you know, Nickelback sucks. Well, they don't suck. You know, they have a bunch of really good songs, and it's just kind of like a fashionable thing that seems to say that Nickelback sucks. They don't suck. Ringo Starr doesn't suck, and he can play.
Well, you know what it's like? It's like it's the greatest band of all time. There's never going to be a band greater than the Beatles. Correct. And they have the greatest songwriting team of all time between, you know, McCartney and Lennon. Of course, George Harrison and Ringo Starr are always going to be pushed to the side, even though they're phenomenal drummer and a phenomenal guitar player. You're always it's kind of, Jeff, you know what it's like? When you become a better comic, right?
I knew he was going there.
Well, when you become a better comic and like people are like, wow, he's getting good. And then you're like, and now your headliner, Sean Morton, and when I go up, and it's like you look at me on the stage and you're like, wow, I still have a long way to go. And I understand why certain people get pushed into the spotlight and certain people, you know, are the openers.
That's what it's like. Yes, it's exactly like that. Yeah. You know what? I never saw it that way, but that's a very good comparison.
That's a true analogy.
Okay, it is a good analogy. Okay. We got to make some decisions here. So I'm cool with putting Stuart Copeland number 4. I did. You know, the guy also does movie soundtracks. I don't know if that moves the needle at all, but I'm just thinking, like, we have 3 guys.
What are we basing the decision on? Like, besides, you know, the sound, their solo. If you know,
I can think you say
you admire them
too. I think sound. I think longevity. I
also think complexity. I mean, guys who are kind of like hard to replicate. I mean, I think if you take a guy like who Sean brought up, Mike Portnoy, I think you put him in any of these bands, he can play like everybody. He's great. He's a great drummer. But these guys started it. These are the innovators. You know?
Yeah.
So, I'll
agree with that.
So we're gonna take out
I'll even say, I'll throw out there and say, if I don't do Stuart Copeland at 4, I have no problem putting Lars Ulrich at number 4.
What do you think, Frankie Hudak?
I'm good with that.
All right, let's go put Lars Ulrich at number 4. And Lars Ulrich.
The last one. We just got to fight for the last one.
Okay, so now the last one. This is who we're considering. And the more I'm thinking about it, because there are 2. There are 2 guys, almost 3.
What is it?
Cozy Powell, because of just, man, he's been in every. He also started. He also was like an original member, I believe, of Bad Company. You know, there he is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, played with everybody. But nice shot.
Yeah, that's a good one right
there. I'm also thinking Vinnie Paul a lot, and Taylor Hawkins, even though I didn't have him even in my top 10. But he is a great drummer, and it's someone from this era as well. Not that Lars isn't.
I think we do need somebody. I think you just made a great point. I think we have to represent somebody from a newer generation too. Because I think everybody that we're talked about is between 1970 and 83. So I think maybe somebody in this millennium can do that. I'll back Taylor Hawkins.
I would either say Hawkins or Dave Grohl. What do you think, Frankie Hudak?
Yeah. I'll go Hawkins, I guess. Hawkins.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason why I'm thinking Grohl, I mean, Nirvana, he played everything on the first Foo Fighters album. I don't know if you ever, heard him play in Queens of the Stone Age, and the song No One Knows is really great playing. And he played in Them Crooked Vultures. But but I'll go Taylor Hawkins. I'll go Taylor Hawkins.
I can deal with that.
All right. So guys playing at home, listen, when this comes out in the comments, if you could put your list, we'd love to hear it. We're going this in our crack panel here. We're going to go.
We're going to get that to you right now, folks.
We're going to go Taylor Hawkins number 5, Lars Ulrich number 4, Keith Moon number 3, Neil Peart number 2, and John Bonham number 1.
I think the only hate we'll get is probably Taylor Hawkins. I think everybody else will kind of agree with that. That list is pretty solid.
All right, we'll switch with Cozy Powell then, right?
I don't think a lot.
We'll take him out.
People today don't have like a
Cozy Powell. All right.
People today don't have like a sense of history. Like if you talk to high school kids, some of them don't even know who Dave Chappelle is. I mean, and that's like a pretty current guy. And like we will put him, some of us will put him on a Mount Rushmore of comedians.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, again, you're right, though. I mean, people are they don't believe in looking backwards. I mentioned this story the other day. It was like we used to go to Montreal every year, and there's this great rock club called Fufun Electrique. So it's like downstairs, it's like a regular bar. And then you go upstairs, they would play bands and stuff, like big bands. Motorhead's played there, Overkill, all these big bands. But they do like DJs and stuff. And I'll never forget, I was about 15 years ago, and I'm sitting on the stage and they started playing Avenged Sevenfold. And I heard this kid go, "Oh, what the fuck is this, classic rock night?" I wanted to punch this kid in the face so bad. Like it was, I looked at my friend and he heard the same thing. We're like, "Fuck this." I just walked away.
Right. So Frankie's trying to figure out, how come some 16-year-old doesn't know who Cozy Powell is?
No, I don't give a fuck either about it.
Can I tell you? I don't know who Cozy Powell is.
First of all, they got
really.
Was that?
I don't know who Cozy Powell is.
That's fine. That's all right. It's a different. If it's a drummer from a different era of rock. It's a Rainbow and Richie Blackmore and he had a great ensemble. Ronnie James Dio singing and Cozy Powell. Everybody that combination it was unbelievable. My friend turned me on to it. He goes, "You got to listen to Rainbow live."
When you look at Rainbow and the singers that Richie Blackmore would have, when he had Dio, he had Graham Bonnet, he had Joe Lynn Turner. I mean, he had some really monster singers in that band.
Did you guys watch the documentary on Dio?
Yeah,
not yet. No,
amazing.
Did you see it, Sean?
It's on Showtime on demand.
I went to a theater. Select seating at the theater only.
Really?
I went there. I was like, oh, okay. And they let the nursing home out. Everybody's, let's go see Theo. I'm like, what happened to our genre? We're gonna fall into the wake. Get the greatest hits of Ronnie James Dio. I mean, we used to listen to the commercials back in the day. You get like
KTEL records.
KTEL records, the Roaring 20s. And my grandmother would walk in and go, "Oh my God, I gotta get that record."
Frank, do you remember the best ones were the R&B ones? And there was a commercial where they're at a party, and like all of a sudden, like the lights go down, they start playing the music, and like the Delphonics come on, and then and then they'll start listening to all the records, and then at the end of the commercial, one guy goes, "Oh, that record was like Off the Hook or some shit like that." He goes, "Can I borrow it?" And he goes, "Oh no, my brother, you must get your own."
Oh my God!
My favorite was the Freedom Rock one. Did you ever see the Freedom Rock one?
What was the thing about Freedom Rock? I remember
it was all
Freedom
Southern rock, but like there's certain parts of it. Like if you go to a show, okay, or like a cover band or whatever, if you hear them start playing "Sweet Home Alabama," some people will yell, "Turn it up!" in the middle. It's from the Freedom Rock commercial, and it was all about these Southern rocks, and they'd have these little tiny like tidbits being thrown in. Like, so like whenever Skinner would play, they would be like, "Play some Skinner." And like, it was so horrible, but it was a great compilation.
Do you remember when you guys would go like to weddings when you were a little kid and you wanted to be cool and you go like to the band and go, "Hey, you think you play Freebird?"
No, Jeff, I never did that.
I never did that one, Jeff. Sorry.
I still do that.
No, but I will tell you something funny that I think you'll appreciate. I may have said this on the show before, but talking about going to the DJs and stuff. Back in the day, one of the big things we used to do for bachelor parties was go to a place called Hot 22, which was on Route 22 in Union, and it was a strip club fully nude. So you bring your own beer and whatever. They would do the treatment where you would get 3 songs. You'd pay it would be like $100-$150, whatever. Everybody chips in, and the bachelor goes on stage. They take the belt off, they whip him, they pull the pants down, they spank him. It's all that stuff. You take 3 songs. You think 3 songs is 10 minutes, right? I know, big deal. My buddy was like, "Here's my bachelor party list. Number 1, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, 23 minutes. Number 2,
live version.
A Change of Seasons by Dream Theater. It's like 67 minutes long. He's giving me this list for like 2 hours of getting out of him.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
All right, guys, this was a good one. This was a good one, man. This was an interesting list and a good show. Frankie, tell us a little bit about where people can find you, what you're up to.
I'm doing it back into the Caroline's. The comedy club closed down. Did you guys know that, right?
Yeah, we heard.
Did you go? Did you go to any of the last little parties that they had?
There weren't really any little parties. I know there was one at the very end. But I wound up doing the New York Comedy Festival there for the November.
That's great. I saw it. How'd that go?
Yeah, it went really well. So that was a good memory for me to leave on.
Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to go now. How about you, Sean?
No, I mean, I only worked there once. I did this program for troubled Jewish youth that we taught them how to do stand-up and ways to help them deal with their issues. Okay. Like I had one transgender girl who transitioned to a boy. I had one girl who tried to commit suicide. I had a young boy who was a twin, and like the other twin was like way better than him. So like we taught them how to write jokes. Like
that's great.
What do you want to talk about? And like they would tell us like, okay, that's good. This is good. This is good. And then we did a big show at the end. And, we met like 3 times, I think. And then we did a show at Caroline's all together. Like the teachers did it, and then the kids did it in front of their parents. And then we had Gary Goldman came up and wound up closing the show for us.
He's great.
Wow. Excellent.
It was one of the best experiences I ever had in my life. And that's the only experience I had at Caroline's. And I'm very happy about that.
So Jeffrey, what's the list now? What's our read down the list? I lost track.
Okay, so here's the list. Okay, just one more time. So number 5 we had Taylor Hawkins. Number 4 we had Lars Ulrich.
Okay.
Number 3 we had Keith Moon. Number 2 Neil Peart. And number 1 from the Mighty Zeppelin, John Bonham. Yeah, there we go.
I'm solid with that.
So what do you got going on, Frankie? Where can people find you, and what's going on with you?
FrankieHudak.com is the website. Put list of shows up there. I'm starting my own show called Frankie Hudak's Rockin' Comedy Hour that's coming out next month, and with stand-up comics and rock guys that I know in the industry, and that's it. And I was going to do a drum solo for you on my keyboard here.
Go ahead. Hold on a second. You'll play us out with that, Sean. Right. What hopefully Adam is going to stick to his New Year's commitment and get these shows on pretty quick, like he did the last one. So, where could people find you?
SeanMortonComedy.com. Find me on social media, Sean Morton on Facebook and Sean Morton Comic on Instagram. And we got tons of stuff coming up. And Jeff, we're going to have a bunch more shows together in the next few months. So,
yeah, folks, we're going to be together at Catch a Rising Star. I'm looking forward to hanging with you on that night.
Be a lot of fun.
Yeah, March 3rd. So check that out.
Is opening for me that night, just so you guys.
I am opening for him. Listen, I have no problem with that. It's going to be fun.
I would never open for you.
Yes, you would.
Never.
Right venue, you absolutely would. You're so
what
dumb.
Right venue? What fucking bar in Brooklyn on a Wednesday night with no cover am I going to open?
Sure. If I said let's go to Blazing Saddles in the city, okay, you would open for me.
No.
Oh my God.
All right, Frankie, play us out.
All right, I don't know. Is it? You hear that little louder there? Is it the kick drum there? They always start out the solos.
I think you got to point to the audience. The left side, the right side. I can't hear you.
So good. Are you ready to rock? I said, are you
That's so 80s. Way to play us out. Frankie Hudak, everybody. The great Frankie Hudak. All right, guys. Check us out. Subscribe. We appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you, Frankie.
Thank you,
Goodbye,
guys.
Sean.
Thank you, guys.
Our pleasure.